All right, hola chicos. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. This is our live for Spanish 4. Thank you to those of you who are joining me. Hola Mikey, how are you? Okay, so let me go ahead and click on the calendar. Before we get started, I just kind of want to recap the emails that were sent out to you either yesterday or the day before. So a couple things that are different here for us. First of all, we are continuing to do lives for Spanish 4. Nothing has changed there. So we are doing lives now Tuesdays and Thursdays, right, from 12:30 to 1. That has not changed. So we're doing our live today. However, yesterday you started to read Don Quixote, which is what we will go over today. I'm going to click on this here, your assignment from yesterday, as you should be doing as well. And I want to point out what you should be doing. This goes for my students and Sra. Schaeber's students. It says, read episodes 1 and 2 of Don Quixote de la Mancha. Answer the questions at the end of each episode in complete sentences in Spanish. You must type your answers, in a Google Doc and share this doc with me. You will add your responses to the same Google Doc for each episode of the graphic novel that we read. So I'm pointing this out because as of right before I started this live, I have only received 6 shared Google Docs out of my class of 26. And in the email that you received the other day, we clearly pointed out that you need to be submitting work now regularly. Spanish 4 is a dual credit course, and several of you are signed up to receive dual credit through SUNY Oswego. So if you are somebody who has not yet created this Google Doc, all we're asking you to do is create a Google Doc, open a Google Doc, type your answers to the questions at the end of each episode in Spanish, and share that Google Doc with either me, if I'm your teacher, or Sra. Schaeber, if she is your teacher. And then you're going to keep a running Google Doc. You'll just keep adding to the same document as you answer the questions for each chapter or episode, as they're called here. So please make sure that if you have not done this for episodes 1 and 2, you need to do that today. And today your assignment is to read Don Quixote episode 3. So you need to do the same thing. So by the end of the day today, we should have received a Google Doc with your answers in complete sentences in Spanish for episodes 1 through 3. And then Wednesday would be episode 4. Thursday is episodes 5 and 6. And Friday, you're going to take a little Google quiz with what you have read thus far. So this work submission component is new, starting this week. We did not collect anything for the preterite versus imperfect stuff, but you want to make sure that now, as we're beginning to read Don Quixote, you are submitting your work on a daily basis. Is everybody clear with that? Can you guys give me a thumbs up in the comments? Many of you who are here have already submitted this to me. But just give me a thumbs up saying that you understand that, or let me know if there are any questions about this work submission. All right, great. Muy bien. All right, thanks, guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, if you look at my live, where am I here? Close these. All right. So we are going to, the last thing that you had to do in the preterite versus imperfect packet was assigned on Friday, and that was page 23. So I'm just going to show you the answers to that quick. Then we're going to talk about symbol waters, which is important because many of the questions you will find that are at the end of these episodes for Don Quixote are in the preterite and imperfect. So we're going to review that quick. And then we are going to go over the first 2 episodes of Don Quixote. And hopefully, we really hope that you guys are going to enjoy reading this story. Don Quixote, we'll talk about in a minute, is, it's meant to be funny. And it's a classic novel in Spanish literature and in the world, really. All right, but first I'm going to do page 23. So this was page 23 in your packet, which was assigned Friday. So this was the last page that we did not yet go over. So I just want to show you this and take a look here. This is also posted on my webpage, the answer key to this, so you can check that out. So it says, cuando mis hermanos y yo éramos, remember that you do have an accent mark on that E there, when we were little, which is, description or setting. Hola, Juliana. Nos gustaba ver películas. Remember, that should not be gustábamos. I'm pretty sure that is why I started. There is no such thing in Spanish. It's either gustaba or gustaban, depending on what follows the line. So this is saying we used to like to watch horror movies. One night, mientras, while we were watching, that's an ongoing thing, a movie about ghosts, that's what fantasmas are. De repente, trigger expression for preterite, suddenly, we heard. That would be the interrupting action there. So while you were watching a movie, we heard a noise outside. In that moment, that is a trigger for preterite. In that moment, I jumped from the couch. I looked through the window, but I didn't see anything. Those would all be completed actions, right, that happened at a specific time in that moment. My siblings and I were very afraid, right? Tener mucho miedo. We were very afraid. That would be an emotion, which is E in waters, which we're going to review in just a minute. My older brother Enrique salió de la casa. He left the house. Pero no había nadie afuera. Remember here, haber, right, is saying there was or there were. So it's saying there was nobody outside. That is a description of what I see. If it was an event, or if something happened, hubo un accidente, hubo una tormenta, then you would use preterite. But if it's a description of what I see, you're using imperfect. Cuando Enrique volvió a casa, when he returned home, that would be completed. He told us that that we didn't have to worry. Entonces, nosotros decidimos, we decided. Remember, decidir is one of those verbs that is 90% of the time used with preterite because it's a completed action. We decided to watch a movie again. After 5 minutes, hubo otro ruido. So here you're using haber in preterite because it's saying an event occurred, the event being a noise. There was another noise. Esta vez en la cocina, this time in the kitchen. My siblings and I, we ran, completed action, so it's preterite, from the house, and we went to our neighbor's house. Again, another completed action. Ellos llamaron a la policía, they called the police, pero nunca supieron or supimos, because we don't know here if they're talking about like they didn't find out or we didn't find out what it was. But because saber is being used to mean found out, remember that that's one of those verbs that changes meaning. So we would be using it in the preterite. And then the last translation here is, esa noche fue un misterio. It was a mystery. And now we never watch horror movies at night, only during the day. So there you go. Are there any questions on what we see here? If not, give me a thumbs up, and we're going to go review some symbol waters. And again, this is on my webpage, so you can always go back, check it out, compare your answers with what I have here. But again, this was the last page in preterite versus imperfect. All right, muy bien. Gracias, Gabby y Iana. I'm going to move on. Okay, so let's go then, I'm going to tilt this down for a second, to a little review before we do, let's see, okay, before we go into Don Quixote, we're going to review Simba and Waters. So first of all, I need you guys to comment in. Simba is the acronym for which tense, preterite or imperfect? Who can tell me? Simba is the acronym for which tense? I got a little delay here. All right, bien. Gabby, you are right. It is for the preterite tense, right? There you go, guie. Nice job. All right, so guys, help me out. The S of Simba, what does that stand for? Go ahead and type it in. Once I see a response, I will go ahead and pop it up, but we're going to review Simba Waters. So S of Simba, what does that stand for? All right. Bien, yes. Bien, Gabby. Bien, Timoteo. So we have a single action, a specific time, or a specific number of times that something has happened, right? All right, go ahead. Give me the I of Simba. What does the I in Simba stand for? Bien. Anybody else? All right, muy bien, Gabby. Yes, it is an interrupting action or event. So remember that if I had something happening in the past, an ongoing action, that would be imperfect, and then preterite action interrupts that. All right, tell me the M. What is the M of Simba for preterite? What does that use? What is it used for? Used to represent? Hopefully at this point you're able to come up with this from memory. You don't have to look at your notes. All right. Muy bien. Main events. Nice job, Timoteo, Guille, Gabby. Good. Yes. A main event. Bien, Santiago. All right. B. The B in Simba. What does that stand for? Again, think back to preterite. How am I using it? What is the B in Simba? Yes. Bien. All right, so it is beginning or ending of an event. So if I know the specific time that something started, bien there, Adam McGee, or I know the ending of an event, then that would also be preterite. And then the A of Simba, guys, what does that stand for? The A of Simba. I'll tell you, in Spanish, your verbs for the A of Simba would be llegar or salir. What would that be in English? Okay, I think I might have to tell you this one here. It is arrivals and departures. There you go, Santiago. Sí, bien, Adam. Yes. All right, good. So arrivals and departures. So there you go. This is when we use the preterite, single actions, interrupting actions, main events, bien, Iana, beginning or ending, and then arrivals and departures. All right, so then we're going to go to waters, which is obviously for imperfect since Simba was preterite. So go ahead, tell me, what does the W of waters stand for? Let's go through this quickly here. W of waters. Hola, Vanessa. Weather. There we go. Nice job. Muy bien. All right, A of waters. What is the A used to talk about in the imperfect? There you go. Gabby, you're all over this today. I like to see it. Nice job. Lanessa, Timoteo. Age, right? If I said, yo tenía 8 años, I was 8 years old, that would be age. All right, T of waters. What does it stand for? The T of waters. Era la una por la tarde. There you go, Parker Kump and Guille and Iana. It is time. It's when you're telling time, right? So, eran las 2 eran las tres when I'm telling time in the past. What does the E of waters stand for, guys? The E of waters. Hola, hola, for those of us that are joining. The E of waters is for emotion. Yes, very good. Emotions, right? Saying how you're feeling in the past. That is expressed with imperfect. Nice job. How about R? The R of waters. Yes, for repeated actions in the past, repetition. Muy bien, chicos. And S, the last one here. What else do I use the imperfect to talk about? The last letter of our acronym. There we go. Gabby's got it. Timoteo. All right. Muy bien. So setting and description in the past. If I'm talking about the setting or talking about description, bien, Adam, we are using imperfect. So there you go. Imperfect waters, weather, age, time, emotion, repetition, setting, and description. And then remember for preterite, Simba, single action, interrupting action, main event, beginning or ending, arrivals, and departures. All right, nice job. Now, we are going to go over your answers. Before we do that, I'm going to pull up the book. So hopefully you have all accessed this. I wanted to just look quickly at the little intro page here because some of you may have overlooked this page or not read it. But I just want to give you some background on our story, Don Quixote, just so you have a frame of reference for what you're reading about. So it says, today, Don Quixote is acclaimed not only as the greatest literary work in Spanish, but as a world's classic. This novel, written by Miguel de Cervantes, was published in Spain in 1605. So this is a very old story, right? But I think that you will find that it is still pretty comical and that you're able to relate to it. Within a year, 6 editions were published, and soon thereafter, Don Quixote was translated into English, French, German, and Italian. Today, this bestseller has been translated to every major language in the world. Don Quixote is a book of universal humor, enjoyed by readers of all ages and of all reading levels. The images of the main characters, Don Quixote, the knight-errant, and his squire, Sancho Panza, are hilarious because they are so vivid. When it says errant knight, I don't know if we know what that means. Don Quixote, the knight errant, it means like the adventurous knight. Like he is a knight, as you would think of like a knight in shining armor, who is in search of adventure. So then, obviously, you guys had the first 2 episodes to read, and this is a graphic novel, so it is set up sort of like a comic book. So this is the start of the first episode, La locura de Don Quixote. Locura meaning like the craziness, right? So I might refer back to this, but we're going to look at your answers here to the questions that you had to complete. So, Don Quixote de la Mancha, episodio 1. So, ¿de dónde era Don Quixote? This is asking where was he from? And era de la Mancha, right? His name, Don Quixote de la Mancha, that is a region of Spain. Now, we're using imperfect tense here. Can you tell me why we would be using imperfect tense in question number 1? What reason from Waters makes us use imperfect in number 1? ¿De dónde era Don Quixote? Yeah, bien, Gabby, you're saying the S of Waters, right? So that is the setting or description. It's saying, where is he from? He's from La Mancha, right? Which is why it is using imperfect. Now, número 2, ¿cómo era Don Quixote? What was he like? What was he like? Don Quixote era un hidalgo. The word hidalgo, if you go into your reading, you'll see that you have little vocab off in the margins, which helps you with many of the words you don't know. But it's saying he was a nobleman, right? That's what the word hidalgo means. He was nobleman who was not very rich or very poor. Ni muy rico, ni muy pobre. And again, that is your S of waters, right? It is description, it is setting. ¿Qué hacía Don Quijote? All right, so it says, Don Quijote leía y leía los libros de caballerías. So he read and read books about knights, and it's saying chivalry books, but knights and adventure. Now, why would this one be used in the imperfect? Don Quixote leía y leía los libros. What letter from waters is being used in this answer? Telling us why we would use imperfect. Why would we be using imperfect in number 3? Yeah. Muy bien, Timoteo. There you go. It's a repeated action, right? We don't know how many times he read. It says he read and he read these books. So it's repeated. There you go. Right. Which is imperfect. All right. Número 4. ¿Qué podía hacer el caballero de la ardiente espada? So what could this knight of the sword, the word espada, kind of looks like spade, but it means sword, do? Creía, he believed, which would be like a mental function, which is why it is imperfect, que el caballero de la ardiente espada podía divide into, con su espada a dos gigantes. So he could slice into 2 giants with his sword, is what it said there in the graphic novel. All right, and then número 5, ¿qué efecto tuvieron los libros de caballerías en Don Quijote? What effect did the books have on Don Quixote? And your answer is le hicieron loco. What does that translate to, guys? Le hicieron loco. ¿Qué efecto tuvieron los libros en Don Quijote? What effect did they have on him? Le hicieron loco. You can tell me what that means. Do we know what loco is? All right, that means they made him crazy, right? They made him crazy. Yeah, there you go, Timoteo. Sorry. There's a little bit of a delay here. But yes, so Don Quixote, you will find, begins to believe this like alternate reality, right? He's like living in a fantasy world throughout the whole book. There you go, Yana. Nice job. Which is why it becomes so funny, right? Because he's in all these situations where he thinks he himself is a knight. But all the people around him just think he's gone crazy. So this is episode 1 still. Number 6, ¿qué decidió hacerse Don Quijote? Again, decidió is in preterite here because he decided to do it. It's the initiation of an action. What did he decide to do? And it says, decidió hacerse caballero andante. He decided to become an errant knight, which again is an adventurous knight. He decided to become one himself. And then the last question, some of these questions you will find are opinion questions. So it says, ¿Conoce usted a alguna persona como Don Quijote? ¿Cómo es? Which just means, do you know someone who is like Don Quixote? What are they like? What is he or she like? So, don't take it literally. Obviously, we're not talking about, do you know someone that decided to pretend like they were a knight? No, but do you know someone who maybe gets like all involved in, a book or like a TV series or like something on Netflix, right, where they just become consumed by it? Maybe think of it that way, right? And then we're looking for your own personal answer there. All right, let's go ahead to episodio 2. So it says, ¿Qué hizo Don Quijote cierta mañana? What did he do that next morning? Se armó y salió por la puerta de atrás del corral. So Don Quixote armed himself and he left through the door at the back of the back door of the corral, like his I don't know how to say it in English here, like where he lived, his backyard. Why would these events here, we have se armó, salió, why would they be in preterite? Who can tell me what letter of Simba that would go with there? Don Quijote se armó y salió por la puerta. Hola, Dorgarita. Welcome. De atrás del corral. Why would those be preterite? Thinking of Simba. Yeah, Timoteo, I think we could say that those are single actions, right? Like he armed himself and then he left. We could also probably call them main events. I think those would be main events here in this particular episode. So yeah, but either way, right, they are preterite actions. ¿Cómo llamó a su caballo? What is a caballo, guys? Who can tell me what a caballo is? This is an important character here in the story of Don Quixote. What is a caballo? His caballo llamó Rocinante. Yes, and that is his horse. So he called his horse Rocinante. Gracias, Timoteo. Gracias, Santiago. ¿Qué fue esencial a Don Quijote? What was essential for him? La era esencial tener una dama de quien enamorarse. So it was essential for him to have a lady. That's what a dama is. Of whom he could enamorarse. What does enamorarse mean, chicos? That I think we had as a word of the day earlier in the year. Or actually, you might have had it last year as well. So it was essential for him to have a lady whom he could enamorarse. Has the root word amor in it. I think we know what the word amor means. It's essential for him to have a lady who he could love, yes, or fall in love with, is what enamorarse means. Gracias. All right, so that lady is going to be called Dulcinea. All of these words kind of have like a root meaning to them, right? We know that dulce, I don't think dulce, my dulce is here right now, but dulce means sweet. So the woman whom he falls in love with or wants to fall in love with is Dulcinea, her name. No era una dama. She was not an actual lady in terms of like being of the noble class. She was simply a labradora, which would be a worker. So she was a working class person, but she was beautiful and he wanted to fall in love with her. And then it says, ¿Dónde mandará Don Quijote un gigante como caraculiambro? And again, there's a note in your reading about that last word there. So where would he take the giant or send the giant, Don Quixote? And he said, le mandará a presentarse a Dulcinea. He would take him and present him to Dulcinea to tell her of his valor, which would mean bravery, right? There's a lot of words here from our Heroes and Leaders unit of Don Quixote. So that he would take the giant, send the giant to Dulcinea to tell her of Don Quixote's bravery. And that is where chapter 2 ends, episode 2. So if you did not yet do those questions and answers in a Google Doc, again, please make sure that you do that and you submit those to Senora Schaeber or I. And then today you need to read Episodio 3. Tomorrow for my students, we are having Google Meet office hours at 1:30. I will send you a link to that about 5 minutes prior to our meeting. And again, that would be a time for us to go over the story and to help me help you answer any questions you may have at this time. And then please be looking at your email. On Friday, we are going to send you a Google form quiz, which you will need to take. And that's going to be based on chapters 1 through 6, episodes 1 through 6 of the reading. So what you've read, what you will have read up to that point this week. All right. Buen trabajo, chicos. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see many of you tomorrow on Google Meet. All right. Adios. Have a nice day.